Bring this meeting to order for the Town of Brunswick Planning Board for October 20th, 2022. Would everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, tonight's agenda is as follows. This was posted on the town website and the town board. Number one, Holston Development. Site plan, applicant seeks to construct a two-story medical building on property located at 112 McChesney Avenue. Holston Development of Albany LLC is the applicant. Number two, Atlas Renewables, North Troy Solar, special use permit and site plan. Applicant seeks to construct a commercial solar collector facility on property located off Oakwood Avenue and Farrell Road. Atlas Renewables LLC is the applicant. Number three, Sagebrook Associates minor subdivision. Applicant seeks minor subdivision approval to create 3 new building lots on property located at 48 Spring Landing Boulevard. Sagebrook Associates Incorporated is the applicant. Number four, Metzger waiver of subdivision. Property owner seeks to transfer 1.847 acres on 15 Naples Court to an adjacent parcel. Fred Metzger is the applicant. With that being said, our first business item is to review and approve the minutes of the previous meeting on
It would have been the 6th.
October 6th. Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those? Are there any changes, amendments, corrections? Hearing none, I'll make a motion for the minutes to be approved as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is the Paulson Development Site Plan. But I don't see anybody here for that. Okay.
One thing I can say about that is that the zoning board, the height variance was approved.
Okay. Well, a couple of things, I'll just make a comment on that. The secret determination is done, is that correct?
Correct.
And the sidewalk issue, you'd like to just walk us quickly through the determination on the sidewalk issue, Andy?
Yes, so obviously the issue of a sidewalk installation or construction has been raised on this. And what the applicant has proposed through its response to public hearing comments dated October 3 is to create an escrow with the town for the amount, the dollar amount of what it would take to install the sidewalk along the frontage of the property of the project site. They've estimated that at $9,600, subject to confirmation by our review engineer. But that would be the proposed way to handle a sidewalk issue rather than hold up any action on the site plan until the sidewalk plan is determined. This would be to escrow that amount for the construction of the sidewalk in the future.
Just an additional comment, Greg made a comment, Greg,
Best way.
That I don't see any point in doing a sidewalk with no ends to it, with sidewalk to nowhere, so that's the basis of that. I think we all sort of agree with that, but this is a good solution to that problem. There's also an issue with the sewer line. they did an initial test of the sewer line and there was a sag in the sewer line?
There was a visual inspection done of that sewer line, and I'm not certain of the number, don't quote me on this, but a certain number of feet have to be repaired. And they were going to come together with a plan with Bill Bradley and the sewer department of how exactly that's going to be done.
Is there any issue with the sewer line crossing over Nigro's property?
Now, with that, while you have the easement,
Well, the answer is yes, because what we asked the applicant for, since part of the proposal was off the project site and onto adjacent third-party property, is we need something in the file indicating written consent from that third-party owner to that work. So that does need to be filed with the town, so the planning board understands NIGRA or whoever the third-party owner is consents to that work. And also will ultimately consent to dedication of an easement if that's the length of the sewer that the town would be taking as part of the project. So that still has to be sent in by the applicant.
Okay. And as Chuck previously stated, they came before the ZBA on the 17th, I believe, for their building height variance, and that was approved. Is there any comments that you'd like to make on the project, Wayne?
Only that I did speak with Bill Bradley, the water department director, on the sewer issue. He did say that the town would take over that sewer line for a portion if it's installed in kind, meaning same right size pipe, the same correct pitch, and that it has to be gravity. They chose to design something different, such as a pressure line, then the town would not be responsible for the pressure line.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on this? All right, Andy, can you give us a bridge version of where we are with this project as far as moving forward?
Procedurally, the secret determination was made. The zoning board did approve the height variance, the area variance for the height of the building. Subject to these, what I'll refer to as technical issues surrounding the sewer and also legal access issues over the third-party property. The board is yet to act on the site plan. There are no particular clocks or timeframes by which you need to act, so the applicant does need to submit that additional technical information and third-party owner information for the board before it's done.
I would assume that the applicant knows that, maybe.
Well,
Well, the applicant has said that he is going to provide that technical information with revised plan and details of the sewer. We haven't received that.
All right. So basically, we are pretty much at a standstill at this point with this project.
it may be a good idea, Wayne, you could just touch base with Greg Hesswick and see where we are on those.
I'd like to tentatively put them on the agenda for our next meeting, which I believe is scheduled for the 5th
I think so. Let me confirm.
or the 3rd.
It will be the 3rd.
The 3rd of November.
It's
So
the
we'll
5th of
tentatively put them
December.
on the agenda.
No, I'm wrong
I
about
was
that
kind of
too.
hoping they were going to be here to answer some questions. We will tentatively put them, that's provided that they, in a timely manner, supply all the information away, and that's, if it isn't, then we will reschedule for the following.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other questions on the Folsom development, the medical building? Okay, moving forward to number 2 on our agenda, Atlas Renewables. Okay. Once again, I believe this has involved a ZBA situation issue that was addressed on October 17th. This was an area variance, and you see the area variance highlight?
Area variance for power poles.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And, I missed the last meeting, so I'm gonna have to rely on possibly Andy to review us on there was a issue where we didn't have an actual lead agency determination on this
No.
project.
Right, that was resolved. We did complete the lead agency coordination.
Okay.
The other two involved agencies did respond, didn't object. The town, for this board, the planning board, designated itself as lead agency, pointing step through to part 2 and 3, and RegDec was adopted.
All right. Okay. So now we're probably at a situation where we are going to draft a resolution. And Andy has done that, and we were all given a draft resolution. Did you get a copy of the draft resolution? I'd like to maybe briefly go through this, since we just got this tonight. And have the members of the board and Wayne to review this. And, so if you could step us right through some of the particulars, Andy, on this? Before we go, is there anything that you gentlemen would like to add or anything? Did we cover everything?
Just one minor comment. I know that sometimes from a legal point of view is problematic. The name of the entity is Northwell Solar without the comma. So Northwell Solar LLC without the comma, also under renewals without the comma LLC. I know sometimes when legal vendors and the legal advisor they want certainty on the name of the entity, so it's just a very minor comment that it's not Northwell Solar comma LLC, it's Northwell Solar LLC.
Okay.
And how about Atlas, with or without the comma?
Without this
Without.
Okay. Duly noted. All right. Obviously, the first 4 pages have to do with pretty much.
Just reviewing procedure, application submission, meeting, confirming the secret determination was made. Zoning board has reviewed, acted upon the area variance for the pole installation. This does confirm the required public hearing was held, and the applicant did respond in full to public comments in writing. Those have been reviewed by Wayne and by the board and deemed to be complete. Again, procedurally, this is appropriately in front of the board for action on the special use permit and site plan applications. What this resolution does indicate that the board has had ample time to review the record, deliberate, and ready to make a determination. This draft resolution would conditionally approve the project, and what the board has done in the past is just step through and discuss the proposed conditions, which would need to be satisfied in connection with the approval. So many of these will be familiar with the board. They are included in your prior resolutions on approvals for large-scale commercial solar projects. So I'll just step through them by letter. Letter A deals with the requirement to post and maintain financial security for decommissioning and site restoration that's required under the town zoning law. It does indicate that the financial security must be approved by the town board, and it has to be in place before any building permit or work permit is issued. Letter B, any final engineering or water department comments on the stormwater pollution prevention plan? I think that's been fully reviewed by the water department in Wayne, but in the event there's any final comments, those will need to be addressed. Certainly compliance with the DEC general permit for construction activities. The board has in the past required coordination with local emergency services on the on-site facilities, layout, equipment access, training for purposes of emergency access, and if they need to, any firefighting. D, the panels must have anti-glare coating or they're consistent materials that will not produce off-site or offensive glare. Letter E. First part of this is your standard condition that basically the tree cutting plan as shown on the layout plan that limits the extent and area of tree cutting for tree removal. What came up Monday evening at the zoning board was the area that is between the location of the panel installation and then to the north. That's still on Mr. Murley's property, but leading toward the Brunswick Meadows project, that the existing trees, the vegetation to the north of the panel installation, to be maintained. To maintain the existing vegetative buffer between the panel site, if I can call it that, and the Brunswick Meadows community. I've included that here as a condition that was really already a condition of the zoning board, because that's the general location of where the pole, above ground pole installation will be. The recommendation was that that also be included as a site plan special use permit condition. So that's there for your consideration.
Right.
Any PSC approvals for this filed with the town? Letter G, the access road is limited to that which is shown on the topographical plan by Atlas Renewables, so that the access to the site is limited to just the proposed access road off thereof. Letter H is one that you have required in other projects where any waste materials from the build out has to be removed from the site within a reasonable amount of time, and certainly no later than the certificate of compliance, making sure the site is buttoned up and cleaned up. Letter I, this issue of fencing did come up at the zoning board Monday evening. My recollection is there was a discussion, there was a photo presentation of the type of fencing that was discussed and reviewed by the board. And my recollection of the discussion is that was deemed adequate by the board. The issue of the fencing did come up Monday night. Wasn't directly relevant to above ground pole installation. This was in the nature of a recommendation by the zoning board to this board for consideration on the special use permit site plan. The zoning law does require an 8-foot security fence, so that's your standard condition with a Knox box installed for emergency access. The zoning board considered the area between the paintball facility and the panels as possibly needing additional security fencing, really for protection of the panels as opposed to any kind of issue of impact of the project under the paintball facility, and having someone, particularly late in the evening after dark, maybe wandering and encountering what's the term you use, the animal friendly or like a pasture fence, right?
Yeah, I call it deer fencing.
Deer
It's
fencing.
the, whatever, the.
It's a
4
larger
or 5 inch square.
Opening that allows animals in now, right? But that might be attractive to whoever late at night leaving the paintball facility to try to wander in there. And the zoning board simply asked if the board could consider, and if you thought it appropriate, require some type of additional security fencing in that area between the paintball facility and the solar panels. That's up to your discretion.
And if I could,
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for, I don't know how the paintball facility and layouts are as far as their, what do you want to call it? The alleys or whatever they do. Is there any chance that could be straight paintballs going into your solar field?
Supposedly they will be looking and targeting in the other direction. We propose to install a camouflage network, which we think that can be quite suitable considering the paintball facilities. This camouflage fence will not allow the balls to go through.
Okay. I'm just thinking, I mean, I can see, a couple of guys on the backside of these paintball courses, let's take a few shots at the panels. I mean, certainly they won't damage it, but they will cover it.
Yeah, a few more targets.
Yeah.
But that was the zoning board's question
Yeah.
about any additional.
Yeah, so, hi, I'm Dave Brennan with the law firm so I know it's been about a year since I've been here, been working with Atlas, on the zoning board side of things, but I thought the talent, I'd come in and maybe help them claim credit of discuss a resolution, but on the fencing, though, we talked, the gentleman on the zoning board, I'm forgetting who mentioned it, we talked about I'll call it the western side of the fence for the solar panels, but he also suggested if there was something was also a wrap around the southern side with the idea, if you go into the paintball facility, you drive up and you basically go, well, roughly due east, paintball and field of horrors is on your left, and then there's parking. There's like an upper field where, and he was concerned about people with overflow parking can park up there. I've got, my 17-year-old goes over on occasion, so before he could drive, I've seen the front of the place. And so it was kind of wrap to wrap on the west side and the south side, and we suggested, well, if the planning board wanted, instead of the deer fencing, welded wire fencing, where we could do chain link if you think, or we could do barbed wire if we really think that the kids are gonna climb over it. But again, Lewis's thought was that we're gonna put some sort of, like they have that camouflage netting along the fence to screen it so that there's no direct shooting through. I mean, if the kids want to shoot things up in the air and have them drop within a building or something like that, but hopefully we don't have money across to go there for those paintballs, they're shooting at each other, not over the fence, but so we're willing to make whatever sort of accommodation for it, it's a security issue.
Well, I think what you're doing is probably the best thing you can do in the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
You're gonna get somebody shoot one up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm sure in some of these solar fields that are out in the middle of nowhere, they'll occasionally have probably a rifle round through one of them, from a straight deer hunter, or something like that. There's nothing you can do about that. But,
Yeah, I think I think the best thing is probably the screening to make it less out there for them. I mean, there is a line of vegetation between the two anyway, so I think it's enough. There is something to be said about keeping the welded wire fence for the small animals to go through versus, chain link with roughly 2 inch squares. So we can put barbed wire on it. I think that's just something else, maybe a little unnecessary. I don't know what you kind of would look at there. So I think at this point, people have seen these and the attractions not really there.
So this would be installation of camouflage type netting. Certainly on the south side, is that on the west side? One of the other sides.
Be on the west side.
Yeah, so it would be kind of like the westerly, that is in parallel with the east side of the main field that they have. And then it wasn't so much the screening on the south side, but it was the zoning board members was, hey, people go up there and they park, or they gotta climb the fence to go into this thing at night. It's like, I don't know, you can park in any imaginable number of places in any of these towns and
Right.
do whatever you want.
And if it's acceptable to the board, just a description of where the camouflage type netting will go.
I would call it the westerly, on the westerly boundary of the solar farm where it runs in parallel with the main paintball field.
That's gonna be in lieu of the deer fence or on the
No,
deer
it'll be
fence?
on the deer fence. So the fence will be there, but it'll be, kind of like you'd see on MASH or one of these shows with the camouflage type netting or something similar, so that, to the extent the kids are looking through it, we can shoot at this, they'll just break it up and let it blend and go back.
So if you left it off the ground, but the animals could actually still walk underneath it probably, right?
Yeah, it'll definitely have room for them to pass on. I mean, if it's an 8-foot fence, it's probably like, the top 6 feet or something at the bottom. It's
Makes sense.
That's the westerly boundary of the solar farm adjacent to the paintball facility?
Yes, that's perfect.
This will be under
Under I, so we'll remove what is currently in bold and italics and insert installation of camouflage type netting on westerly boundary of solar farm adjacent to paintball facility. Letter J is, the next several are your standard conditions. Constructed in compliance with National Electric Code requirements. Use of pesticide or herbicide prohibited. And note will be added to the approved plan. Zoning law and requirements for security lighting. Letter M, a pilot agreement is required. Pilot agreement, again, must be approved by the town board and executed prior to the issuance of any building permit or other work permit. Town does require a stormwater management facilities maintenance and easement agreement. Again,
Are there any stormwater management?
No post-construction, stormwater management facilities.
there is none?
Disturbance was under an acre.
So, for the board, generally, if there are ongoing post-construction stormwater facilities that need to be maintained so that the facility remains in compliance with the state stormwater program, the town won't take them on a private commercial site. The town does require the private owner to own, operate, maintain, repair those stormwater facilities through an agreement. If there are no post-construction stormwater facilities, that condition can be removed. Construction hours, you have required 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Strict compliance with the approved plan set. Is there going to be any requirement for coverage under a nationwide permit for this? I think you're staying outside of all the federal wetlands.
I'm happy to put if applicable in front of it.
Yeah, why don't we do that, because you're so close to that wetland. I think we should put that in there.
I'll start.
Happy to put if applicable, and then if
I'll start that with applicable subject to the requirements. And that's fine. Generally, the construction is outside the federal wetlands that were designated on the site, but you're correct, Lenny. I think you're kind of close.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
Now, the last three were over on page 7 were issues that came up Monday evening at the zoning board. And again, they were simply for consideration by the board. Considering any additional infill planting or berming for screening purposes, if you deem that necessary. And the latter two, what I've listed here as S&T, were actually in DEC's response to the lead agency coordination notice with their comments. Since the utility poles will be installed in an area of the state Superfund site, this is the adjacent Troy incinerator site, compliance with all applicable requirements for DEC. And the department did indicate there's no evidence of endangered species or habitats, but the northern long-eared bat is everywhere in the state and suggested a condition that no trees measuring 3 inches in diameter or greater of breast height be removed except during the period November 1 through March 31 for no disruption of nesting purposes. So those latter 3 were, 2 of which were raised by DEC, 1 of which was raised by the zoning board. That's up to the board's discussion and deliberation.
Anybody have any questions? Any comments on any of the noted conditions?
Did they indicate where they want the berm?
They were kind of, I'd say, general on that. It was really, the biggest concern was that area to the north between Brunswick Meadows and the project site.
we agreed that was the nature, because there were a couple folks from, as I recall, from that.
Who
that
came in and
development
commented.
Came out and would hit and voice concern, so it was the idea of if additional screening was needed to the north of the project to fix any potential impact of views to the south from that project.
So this is conditional on after the fact whether we need.
I thought it could be for discussion tonight. I just did one somewhere else, which was kind of similar, where it wasn't entirely clear if it was needed, and we put a condition in that there was an agreement that it would, a condition that it would be done upon inspection of the building inspector and the determination that there was visibility, select plantings would be made. You know, a building inspector was willing to go along with that, but it was kind of like, it's a little tough to say with leave on, leave off conditions once it's built, and rather than a build a berm of 500 feet wide, we would look at it and see if some select plantings were needed. And I don't mean to make or suggest more work for Chuck, but that's, I just did handle this in a different town that way. Clearly, S&T, those two from the DEC are without objection, and this last one, we're, you know, here for a discussion with the board, if you feel there's something that's needed, or if it's a, you know, let's put it in as a condition, and we'll agree that it's during construction, if we find that there's some site pass through something, that some additional evergreens are needed, we'd be on the hook to put those in, but one way or the other, we're willing.
I think-
We're willing, we're not here to fight about this tonight, we're here to get it done, so.
Yeah, the only concern I had was whether the comments from the zoning board were the result of a particular comment made at the public hearing.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. My recollection of the discussion Monday evening was not particular to an individual comment. It was just generally, there were comments from folks that lived in Brunswick Meadows, that enjoy the community, that like their views. And so they wanted to make sure that any existing vegetative buffer between the panel location and that community be maintained, and if there needed to be any infill planting, just to make sure it wasn't really visible from that community.
And all these plantings would be on the property.
It's got to be on Burley's property, yes.
So I'll say two quick things on this. One is just to do my job is, I can agree that community is there, and as you would expect, they will come out and complain about what they're gonna look at. But at the same time, this has always been zone industrial. They bought a piece of property next to an industrial zone site, and, you know, you can look in the newspaper and see Monroe is struggling with a, like a waste incinerator level thing up in their industrial zone. This is a pretty benign type of use, but we're willing to do it after the fact if there's some bad use. The second is, my favorite zoning and planning story of all time actually was, I was gonna say it was industry, and it was actually next door. It was John Zemke was a planning board member, farmer, was in for a 2-lot subdivision, and his neighbor came out to complain about his 2-lot subdivision on the farm. And she said, when I moved out to the country, I thought I'd be able to look at cows every single day. And John, without missing a beat, and if you knew him, how he spoke, said, man, you can come over tomorrow and buy as many cows as you want. But it kind of goes to the idea that you really own everything as far as you can see. I don't have the luxury of sitting out my window looking in the distance. I've got my head down, and so we're willing to do it, but I'd rather do it, rather than say we need 500 feet of, just put it, we'll put it as a condition, we'll do it if Chuck says it needs to be done.
I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
I think berming could be an issue.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to burn, I think we'd rather go with straight planting.
Because you're right next to federal wetland, you would create additional disturbance that just. Other issues that,
I should have stopped that.
with very little result.
Not so much burning and is the potential for the plants to take and things like that. But we would certainly agree that if there's some site plans that we would put plantings in consultation with the building department and the town engineer to fix that.
So R should not include burning.
I would say, I think it's
So-
you've seen some trees planted where you would think they would live and they don't live, and so I think putting them in the natural soil is a better move for the long-term viability, but
So
those other
some,
folks who know better than I.
some proposed language is post-construction review by the building department and planning board review engineer to determine need for infill evergreen plantings for visual screening to the north of the project site and installation of evergreens if necessary.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All right? Everybody agree with that?
I have one question. How does the tree cutting restriction get applied to the remaining parcel? This is a lease parcel?
Well, this is how I have interpreted it. Part of this application is clearly by the tenant, but it also has to be executed by the underlying fee owner. To me, the fee owner is part of the application process, and as such, it's outside the particular project site of the tenant, but it is owned by the fee owner. I'm comfortable putting that down as a condition on the remaining property of the fee owner as some mitigation of provision for the property.
What happens if he wants to develop that?
I was just gonna say, anything would have to come back, any
Yes.
such cutting would have to come back to this board for review and consideration. But if in theory, I don't know, the lay of the land that well, whether there's a real viable spot on that side or not. 142 going up there, that you have a real frontage or where it would work for, I mean, the strip mall that's there, I think is like largely vacant as it is 40, so I don't know that it's a real viable thing on the next side around to get further from the main traffic route. So, but obviously that, we could certainly make that subject to review by the planning board too.
He's limited by that city flood site as well.
Yeah, so.
He does a development, he from the east side.
Okay.
Towards, Farrell side.
The residences on Farrell Road aren't gonna have an impact of looking into this.
You shouldn't.
They would be,
Should.
they would be more because they're uphill.
See where Liberty is. The
Russ, one
paintball
of the
field is
things
gonna be
that,
in between
based
these
on that
two lines
discussion,
on this
is
side.
back on page 5, condition 1E, at the end, that's dealing with the no tree cutting to the area to the north. We could add the sentence, any proposed cutting of trees or other vegetation in such location is subject to further planning board review.
Okay.
See their activities.
You can see it.
So the.
Any other comments?
Put a line between these 2 points. The solar
Anybody have any
field is gonna be
additional
inside
conditions
of
about
that,
the
other than that. All of this side is all R40, so they can't go
I
past
think
these
at
two
this
lines
point,
from these 2
we're
points.
gonna modify this draft,
Yeah.
resubmit it out to us for our final review,
Good question. We're gonna check that out.
and
That's what I just said.
proceed at our next meeting for,
That's within the discretion of the board, correct?
I, with due deference to that, I asked for a vote subject, I mean, for the minor amount of drafting associated with this that could be reviewed, that we're on the cusp of voting tonight. You know, with Andy making those few changes to this, it wasn't a significant wholesale change.
Dave? Andy?
No, that's within your power to do.
All right.
We've
And,
gone through. So just for purposes of the record, and we'll make it clear, we're going to make edits to, on page 1, to the name of the LLCs by removing the commas. There will be an edit to page 5, starting under number 1, again removing the comment and the name of the LLC. Under 1E, we'll add the last sentence. Any proposed cutting of trees or other vegetation in such location is subject to further planning board review. Okay, over next page 6, letter I, what is in bold and italics will be deleted and will be replaced by installation of camouflage type netting on the westerly boundary of the solar farm adjacent to the paintball facility is required. Letter N will be omitted. I'm going to keep that letter N, I'm simply going to put in intentionally omitted. Letter Q will now start with if applicable, comma, subject to. Letter R will be amended to read post-construction review by the building department and planning board review engineer to determine need for infill evergreen plantings for visual screening to the north of the project site, comma, and installation of evergreen trees if necessary.
What if you left it to the north out? I was just looking at his thing, and you can see it from Farrell Road.
Well, if we don't put a location in there, then it's unclear as to where on the entire boundary of the project site there would need to be infill planting. Again, that's a determination to be made by the planning board. Wayne, if you've got any thoughts on the visual impact assessment that was done and visibility from Farrell?
I think they had proven that the view shed from Farrell Road indicated based on the topo and the existing vegetation that it was.
Well, you can't see it from the 3-year-old apartment building either. But they're all worried about it.
Yeah, I think that provision of any tree cutting over there needs to be reviewed by the planning board. Would suffice, protect that view.
Can you repeat that?
Fair.
Well, could we add east and north? Easterly boundary? Be
Isn't
similar
that
to-
solid trees from?
No,
It's okay, yeah, we can do east and north. Yeah, that's the concern, Dave, absolutely. I think that the northerly side, I think really, and I haven't been at every meeting, really came from the public hearing where the zoning board heard from some of the folks who live in that development that they were concerned about visibility, not necessarily that there was visibility, but that's the big concern. And so, and we're trying to react to that and make it right. So we're willing to do that to the east side too. If it turns out, it doesn't say if there's something.
3 inches and greater. Anything greater than 3 inches cannot be cut. Smaller than 3 inches, they can't be cut.
So they agree to that, yeah. The letter T for the DNC is 3 inches or greater.
Good point.
Let's go back to letter R. Is this the description of both the northerly and easterly area? The infill planting? Or is it no tree cutting?
The infill planting.
Okay. So letter R, post-construction review by the building department and planning board review engineer to determine need for infill evergreen plantings for visual screening northerly and easterly of the project site, and installation of evergreen trees if necessary is determined by the building department and the planning board review engineer.
Yes, that's.
And then letter T would now read 3 inches in diameter or greater at present.
I have a dumb question. When, because people commented at the public hearing, and they said that, they're gonna see this. Is the view shed from the top floor of these condos, or is it from ground level? You understand what I'm saying? It seems to me I recall, and I may be wrong, I'm just throwing this out here, that somebody made a comment, well, if I look out my bedroom window on the second floor, I can see this.
my comment is, I don't know who has the luxury of lingering out the bedroom windows, staring at, as far as you can see something. I mean, I can glance out my bedroom window, I suppose, but, you know, and it's not as if it's 50 feet from the bedroom window, it's, come to the distance, but it's a pretty significant distance in the background to that. But,
You know, we were talking about the ones on Farrell Road, most of those are like center hall colonial type houses with a second floor. I don't know what's on the back of them, they may have a, you know, porch out the back or whatever. So the question I just have is, when you do these visuals, is it at eye level?
Well, because I think it was likely bringing up 150 and Brunswick Meadows, which is one of the houses in the corner, or one of the corners of Brunswick Meadows. We specifically took some pictures at ground level at 40 feet, at 100 feet with the drones. No, I mean, we did some simulations. No, there will be no visual, not even from her. Even if she climbs to the roof, she will not see that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you probably addressed that in your comments to the public hearing, but I just wanted to just review that.
it's a very natural comment when you listen to something, you don't want to look at it. And you're willing to say, no, I'm basically trying to cover, in some sense, the building department, when the phone rings, someone's after this is built, and there's a legitimate complaint, that we have something to forward look at about how we'll react to that. And certainly during Chuck's, you know, construction and other, you know, or compliance type inspections, we can look at it and make those determinations. But, you know, we're doing our best to save you from those calls that come in the future to the building department during business hours, and give some relief to those calls and have a solution.
Just to answer the question of how far the distance is from Unit 1504 to the property line, not to where the solar is going to be, is 1,198 feet.
So that's what I was getting. I thought it was 1,000 feet. I didn't want to speak without that. I thought it was pretty significant.
Okay.
111.
They were all set with the corrections to this draft.
Are we missing anything?
No, I don't think we're listening. Well, I've gone through these prior to you.
Okay. So if nobody has any other comments or wishes to make any other corrections to this resolution, as it's been amended, we can move forward and approve this resolution. So I would entertain a motion from anybody.
Someone can offer the resolution and second it, and then we'll do a roll call.
Okay. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? We're going to do a roll call vote on this.
Yep, I'll run through. Chairman Oster,
Yay.
Member Manella,
Yay.
Member Creighton,
Yay.
Member Peterson,
Yay.
Member Henderson,
Yay.
Member Tarbox,
Yay.
and Member Stankley.
I guess we're all set.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your patience and extra time.
Okay, good luck.
I'm sure at some point I'll be back again. Thank you very much.
Good night. Number 3 on our agenda is the Sagebrook Associates. Kevin Cronin. How are you tonight?
If I have one. What's that?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go out for Sagebrook Associates, 3.
I think the big point was the special note added to the plat. And I made reference to, I believe it's note 6 on the new map that everybody received tonight. It has the, number 6 is the driveway encroachment is subject to an unrecorded revocable license agreement between the adjoining landowners. And according to my conversation with Andy, that will satisfy,
It addresses the issue from the town's perspective.
okay? I'm gonna ask, Wayne, is there any additional engineering comments or things that have to be addressed? And is this considered now a complete application for public, hearing consideration?
As I said in the last meeting, that they meet all the requirements of the town of Brunswick subdivision regs for a minor subdivision. We go out and look at the site, it's well drained. I didn't see any issues where erosion or drilling drills or anything out there. Clearing will be kept to a minimum. These 3 lots have already been cleared pretty much. They're almost ready to go building lots as far as that's concerned. So we'll be disturbing more than an acre, but less than 5 acres. They are required to provide erosion sediment control plans, which they've done. We do have proper frontage on the cul-de-sac for 3 lots. Definitely, the plans are certainly sufficient for review by the public.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Is there any reason to, have any discussion, reasons that we cannot proceed with scheduling a public hearing?
I guess I got one question before we go ahead. Is lot 1 gonna be able to put a driveway in there without removing the existing driveway?
Requirement for a driveway over 150 feet long is 16 feet with 3-foot shoulders. Does take up a good portion of that lot coverage as it's shown.
So that's pretty much gonna take that driveway out for it encroaches?
It'll encroach on that wedge of the driveway.
Dave, that was a whole issue.
I
Sure,
know.
there's a plat note. The nature of a revocable license is just that, the owner can revoke the permission to have it on the property, and it has to be removed. As long as it's stated that on the plat from the town perspective, that's okay. If there's a battle between the owners, as we've heard, that's a battle between the owners. We wanted to make sure there was some indication on the plat that's potentially stamped and signed by the town, indicating that driveway's there, subject to a replicable license.
I guess I don't believe this is the best way to solve this, but it's a legal approach to do it. That's not the way I would treat it.
Well, I think there may be some public comment about it.
Could be.
It might be, it might be.
Maybe.
So, this may not be the
Final thought.
final solution. That's why we want to get it to a public hearing. See what comes out of it in relation to that driveway issue. Anyone have any other? We could schedule a public hearing if we're required to do under the minor subdivision. And usually, because of the time element and posting,
That'll be November 17th.
we will have to schedule this for November 17th. It'll be at 7 o'clock, it'll be the first thing on our agenda. And then the Sagebrook Associates will be the first thing on our business agenda. So, go from the public hearing. Any comments, just as a warning, any comments made, we're required to have a written response to all the comments made. If there are no comments made after the public hearing, it's a simple letter. If there's no comments, review, submit our application. All right? Does anybody have any questions before having this? All right, I think you're all set, and we will see you on the 17th.
Thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
No problem, thank you. Okay. The last item on our formal agenda tonight is Metzger waiver of subdivision. Now, I know you came before us under new business in our last meeting.
Yes, sir.
I believe there was a change to the,
Yeah, I was in a hurry to kind of finish it, it's like, didn't have any joiners and location map, so I added that. Excuse me, the joiners names and address.
that's that. Now, just to review this for everybody, we have lot 1, and you're gonna merge it with lot 2.
No, what actually that was the Murray's bought lots 101, 102, and 103 of the original 140 West Section 4, 20, 25 years ago. They merged the 3, they built the house, they added a garage, they added a full house. And then when that development was approved behind them, they were getting apartments, right?
Yes.
They went and purchased this kind of odd shaped piece that's behind them, as part of a buffer, even though what's gonna be developed is gonna be far away from them as well.
Right.
Anyway, so it was kind of like a win-win for them, so now, what they're looking to do is take the original lot 101, take the line that was between 101 and 102, and just extend it out through that additional piece of, what we want to call buffer lands that they purchased, and cut that off. That's going to be lot 2, which is the 1.847 acres, and they're going to keep that over to their son and daughter-in-law so they can build a house on it.
Okay.
And retain, obviously, lot 1, which is going to be the 2.934 with all the existing improvements on it.
Yeah, this will be all one lot.
Okay.
It's one lot one. Crazy looking.
Anybody have any questions?
What's the resulting lot size that's gonna be
Transfer is the 1.847 acres. North 40 West off of South Lake, I think it's North South Lake, you hang a left on.
North Lake?
Oh, sorry, North Lake, yeah, off North Lake, you hang a left on to, I think Lindsay comes right out at the entrance there.
Yeah.
And it kind of wraps up, and then right before you hit the last intersection, you hang a left. As you can see, Lindsay goes down and has the cul-de-sac at the end, that's the last left there, where it goes in, just a small little cul-de-sac.
This property with Murray was involved with the Gallivan
Correct.
properties. And he negotiated a property, as the gentleman said, that to give himself more of a buffer. The original lot, you can see there that big buffer. So this would be on the border, the southeast corner of the old Gallivan mulch pile. I don't know a bunch of you were on the board at the time. I think everybody was on the board at the time of the Gallivan, except for the, I don't know what, well, you were you on it?
I wasn't on, but I know.
Yeah. I think most of the town knew about it, honestly. So, I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else? So is this more of a lot line adjustment because they're extending it out?
Well, they are creating a new building lot,
Yeah.
so
All right.
it may be viewed in the nature of a lot line adjustment, but the resulting is they're gonna create a building lot.
Right. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for the applicant? Wayne, you have?
I have no questions.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, we can move forward with this, and I'll entertain a motion to approve this waiver. First, we have to do a seeker determination. Yeah, are we doing the motion on the seeker determination? Made that? Okay. We have a second on that. Is there any further discussion on the seeker? All those in favor? Any opposed? Now on the approval of the waiver, do I have a motion for that? Okay, do I have a second?
Also, Wayne, this will result in a building lot, should be subject or condition that principal and health department approval for water and septic prior to issue of the
Public sewer, public water.
Stand corrected. So, strike that.
There's got to,
So there is no additional conditions on the approval? Simply has to come out.
No, generally, when you do a lot line adjustment, you don't want that sliver of land created, so there's a merger deed. It won't be a merger deed, you have to make a new deed, so that will be transferred to this. That'll then create a new tax parcel, so nothing to file with the town, to file out with the county.
Yeah, after approval of files with the county, I'll generate the, Mr. Doyle's their attorney. I'll send it over to our legal description to prepare the sign off.
Wayne, do you see any other conditions?
other than a driveway permit,
Usually.
yeah, usually.
My guess is the sewer lines probably already there, because being an individual lot, I can put it in, my guess is that.
May or may not have put a service line there.
We'll look into that, but if it's there, then we'll just use the existing.
We'll just need to coordinate with the water department, water receiver.
You get it?
And
Who made the motion?
one last one is, you're creating a building lot, so there is a,
$500.
yeah, the parking rec fee.
Sure.
You forgot about
Is that one lot, is it one or two?
It'll- In my opinion, it's one, you're creating one new building lot, so it's one.
Okay.
Parking rec fee.
Interesting.
$500.
Sure, that's fine. Just so I can bring a check in the plans.
Did I have a second to the motion?
That was Linda seconded, I don't know who did it.
Second,
first.
and this is.
Who made it?
Yeah, and you made it the motion.
Yeah.
Linda seconded. And this is with the conditions that you.
Subject to a town driveway permit.
Yeah.
Coordination with the water sewer department. Payment of parking rec.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're all set.
Thank you very much.
Question I have is, do you want your maps?
We got to sign it.
Oh, you want
Oh,
to
he's
go?
gonna sign it, okay.
Gotcha.
Snap them and,
Does the town require Mylar or just one for the town?
You like Mylar?
Yeah, I make them in-house, so it's easy.
Okay.
Not a problem.
We'll get that signed at the next meeting.
Perfect. I'll have those there, early part of next week. I can take care of it.
Chuck, I have one.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. Is there any new business? I don't get
We
any.
do not have any.
We don't have any new business.
I do have a question about old business, though.
Yeah, well, we'll get that.
Okay.
No new business, okay. Old business, you're on.
I received a call from Mr. Oh gosh, I can't think of his name. 182 Ball Mountain Road. Vincent Santor, who was acting for it. Pete was the gentleman's first name. Just exactly what was needed. You just wanted the topos on the 5-acre parcel in which he is wavering, not the topos on the entire lot, is that correct?
Whatever the affected property is.
And it said that would be the 5-acre parcel. Because he was saying what the fee would be for that.
And that's we deem that a minor subdivision, is that correct? So-
We did the minor
Only
just
required
because
is
there
that
were,
for conflicts.
the handbook for the,
USGS.
Yeah.
Okay, the other old business, the only other old business, I got an email from your office about the Brunswick Acres. Apparently they haven't put any money up.
no money has been put into the escrow account yet.
The clock's sticking on it.
They have, she has requested it a couple times by letter, and so far, no money has been put in, and there are bills to pay, I guess, out of it, so. The bookkeeper said that we can't work on the project until some money is put in the escrow accounts. Not that, we as a board, or me personally, or Bill Bradley are doing anything on it.
Okay. All right.
And I'll simply note, if I can, for the record, I got a text from Dave Brennan, who must do some legal work for Rich Paulson. And he did get a hold of Rich Paulson, and Mr. Paulson said there was a mistake. Someone was supposed to have contacted the town to ask to be moved to the next meeting agenda, and he apologizes.
We did contact him. But scratched off the board in his office.
Yeah.
Wendy will get that email next week.
I think just
And
as
have some
part of
peer
like
issues.
old business and announcements, I think we ought to at least inform the board that the town is going to have a public hearing or a referendum on putting a moratorium on solar projects.
Really?
That is gonna be on the 15th
That's going to be on the 15th.
at 6:15.
Correct, so there was a proposed 12-month moratorium introduced by the town board on large-scale commercial solar projects. And you're correct, the special meeting on November 15th for a public hearing, to take comments on the proposed moratorium.
So just so you should know, that's in the works. If that passes, pretty much puts a halt for what, is it a 6-month moratorium? 12 month?
Was there any to shoot?
There was a couple that were in the shoe,
At the zoning board.
but we talked about, Atlas, and they are so far ahead. And even if we delayed doing this meeting and went to our next meeting for a review of the proposal, it's still under the 15th. So we had to move forward on it, and they were so far ahead with it. That's why we proceeded ahead with it.
My question about this is, if there are public comments, which we fully expect there to be, is there any response to the public comments, or can the town board act upon the resolution right at that meeting?
They can act on the local law at that.
Or local law, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they choose to, that's within their legislative discretion.
Is that also, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that also, there's an extension for the multifamily housing too?
What's been introduced is, the board will recall there was the proposed amendments to the zoning law that were very extensive.
Yeah.
Comments were received that are still being reviewed by the town. But in order to address specifically the issue of two-family and multifamily, another local law has been introduced to amend the zoning law just on the proposed amendments for two-family and multifamily, limited just to that. And that was introduced, much reduced in scope, and that'll be subject to a public hearing at the town board's regular meeting November 10th.
Just so you're up to speed on what's going on. Okay, if nobody has any other business, we're just gonna review the agenda quick. Obviously, we've just been told that Wilson wants to, the development wants to be on the agenda for the 3rd. We talked about that being tentative, so they are now on the agenda for the 3rd. Atlas was approved, Metzger was approved, Sagebrook, public hearing on 17th. So right now, the only thing I have is the
Awesome.
Olson development. Is that correct?
Well, I got it.
Okay. All right then. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Just, condolences from the board
I had asked Wendy
to Andy on the loss of his mother.
to do stuff, and she never got